In a recent video, I covered the most overpowered perks per special that completely broke Fallout 4. Well, this video, this is a little bit different because instead, I'm talking about survival mode where you can't fast travel, stim packs don't instantly save you, you need to eat, you need to sleep, and a random mole rat can absolutely ruin your afternoon. Of course, in survival mode, damage is still very important, but you do need to consider other things as well. Because now the wrong perk doesn't just make you weaker, it makes you walk further, carry less, waste ammo, use more supplies, and reload a save from 45 minutes ago because you got a little bit too confident. So today I'm picking the best perk in every special for survival mode. These aren't necessarily the flashiest of perks, nor are they the most explosive, nor are they the most broken, but these are the ones that actually help keep you alive, stocked, and sane. And that's because in survival mode, you're not trying to break the game, and instead, you're trying to avoid becoming a loading screen tip. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get stuck in. Alright, in survival, your biggest enemy isn't always a deathclaw. In fact, let's be honest, it's probably the over-encumbered bit, which means strong back is the survival MVP for the strength category, and it's probably not even close because in survival mode, ammo has weight, stim packs have weight, radaway has weight. Basically, everything has weight. Your hopes and dreams probably have weight as well, meaning without strong back, you're always carrying too much weight. Now, strong back does three massive things for you. It increases your carry weight, obviously, and at higher ranks it lets you move at normal speed whilst over encumbered at the cost of AP. Now, you can't fast travel in survival mode, but the higher ranks still matter because being able to move whilst over encumbered without crawling across a commonwealth is pretty damn useful. In survival, over encumbered usually means that you've miscalculated, maybe you looted too much, or you found something valuable and refused to sell it. Without strong back, that 10-minute shame walk, that's a 10-minute shame walk, but with strong back, it's manageable. And in a mode where, walking is already 70% of your playtime, that's pretty big. So strong back doesn't increase your damage, obviously, but it does increase your freedom, and in survival mode, freedom can be power. Now, if unlike me, you're actually disciplined with your inventory or you just enjoy suffering, then Armorer is my backup perk because in survival mode you do take more damage, so fights can be more punishing. Better armor mods mean you get access to more resistances, pocketed and deep pocketed upgrades, customization that supports your build, and let's not forget, pocketed mods plus strong back equals maximum loot goblin energy. I mean, look guys, I get it, armor doesn't exactly look exciting on paper, but in survival mode, proper armor scaling can be the difference between a close fight and I've just lost 40 minutes of my progress. So, for survival, strength, the theme isn't aggression, it's more, sustainability, I guess. Strong back keeps you moving, and armor keeps you alive. And both prevent the single worst survival experience of the long, slow walk of regret. Right, let's move on to perception, and in survival mode, perception is less about being cool and more about being a little bit more efficient because in this mode, every bullet has weight, the risks are much higher in every fight, and every bad engagement is a potential infection waiting to happen. Look, again, I'm not picking perks that look flashy, and instead I'm picking perks that reduce chaos. So for me, Rifleman is king in survival mode, and here's why. Automatic weapons feel amazing until you realise you've just burned through 200 rounds and now weigh the same as a small sedan. And as I've already said and probably will say throughout this video, in survival mode, ammo has weight, long fights are dangerous, so mid-range combat is safer, and you want fewer shots per kill. Rifleman gives you increased non-automatic rifle damage, armor penetration, increased limb damage, and a knockdown chance at the higher ranks. And that armor penetration especially is pretty darn huge because the faster you drop enemies, the less damage you take, and the less stim packs you use. And the fewest impacts you use, the less you cry when you realise you only have 2 left, and you're nowhere near a bed, or have no food. Rifles reward controlled, deliberate combat, which is exactly how a lot of people probably should be playing survival mode. So with Rifleman, you're not spraying bullets left, right, and center hoping you hit something, and instead, you're solving these kind of problems from a safer distance. Now, if you find distance combat a little bit boring and you're still brave enough to go it, I don't know, guns blazing in survival, then fair play to you. So my backup perk for you guys for perception isn't exactly about combat at all. In fact, it's not. And that's exactly why it's powerful. I am, of course, talking about locksmith. So, as I've said multiple times, you can't fast travel in survival, and backtracking can be expensive, especially time consuming. So, every resource matters, every shortcut can matter, and higher tier locks often hide things like ammo, fusion cores, antibiotics, other bits and bobs, like they could have beds behind doors, valuable loot you'd otherwise have to buy, and some incredibly useful shortcuts that you can go through. Like locked doors often let you skip entire sections of a building, or maybe they create a quick escape route, or even they allow you to avoid unnecessary fights. Not only those, but they can let you exit safely after clearing an area, and sometimes in survival, avoiding one bad fight can be more valuable than winning 5 good ones. Yes, Locksmith doesn't increase your damage output, obviously, but it can increase your options, and you can get some excellent loot from locked boxes and safes and bits and bobs. These options may keep you alive for longer. So, for perception in survival, Rifleman reduces the risk in combat, and Locksmith both reduces the risk in exploration and gets you extra things. So, you're onto a winner there. Right, next up is endurance, and if strength was about carrying your problems, then endurance is about surviving them. The stakes are obviously dialed up in survival mode, meaning you're fragile, not emotionally, well, maybe emotionally, but definitely physically. You take more damage, healing is slower, infections exist, and sometimes a random raider with a pipe pistol suddenly turns into a Navy SEAL, so endurance perks matter a lot. My winner here is Life Giver. Yes, Life Giver might look boring, it's certainly not flashy, it's not exciting, instead, it's literally just more health. And obviously in survival mode, that is very useful. Each rank gives you a solid chunk of HP, and at rank 3, you get passive health regeneration when you're not in combat. And I appreciate that regeneration isn't fast, and it's not going to save you mid gunfight, but between encounters, it reduces stim pack usage, food consumption, panic healing, and that does matter. And as I've said multiple times already, in survival mode, healing items have weight, and using fewer of them means carrying fewer of them, which loops back nicely into not becoming over encumbered every 15 minutes. Not to mention the higher health pools give you more breathing room, and a lot of the time in survival, fights can feel like, oh, that's fine, oh, that's less fine, and oh crap, I'm dead. Life Giver basically stretches that middle phase out and basically gives you a little bit more time to react, and time is quite valuable. Now, if you think that's basically cheating, then my backup endurance perk is Aqua Boy or Aqua Girl, depending on your character, which gives you no radiation from swimming and ultimately no risk from water eventually. At higher ranks, you're basically invisible while submerged, and in normal mode, that's just convenient. But in survival mode, it's a mobile superpower because, well, you can't fast travel, and Aqua Boy, Aqua Girl means rivers, lakes, and coastlines become highways. So instead of fighting through every enemy, including raiders, super mutants, random patrols, that one blug bug that ruins everything you just swam past, you just swim past it all. Need to escape a bad fight? Jump in the water. Need a safe route into the city? Use the river. Need to avoid an area you're underleveled for? Just swim around it. Aqua Boy or Aqua Girl can remove entire encounters from the equation, and sometimes the safest fight is the one you actually never start. Now, I will add a final endurance perk more for the late game, I think. So once you're a little bit, tankier and fighting higher damage enemies regularly, then Adamantium Skeleton is useful because, well, if you're tired of limping everywhere, it stops that from happening. But for most of a survival playthrough, water immunity gives you far more value far earlier into the game. Right, let's talk about charisma, which you could argue in a normal playthrough is optional, but survival, it's pretty important. And this is because survival mode isn't always just about combat, it's about supply chains, safe beds, reliable vendors, and not having to walk across the entire Commonwealth for adhesive. But I'm not picking this for dialogue flavour, I'm picking it for stability. And of course, this perk is Local Leader. And this is basically the survival charisma perk, full stop. And that's because rank 1 unlocks supply chains between settlements, and in survival mode, that's game changing, as you cannot fast travel, and without supply lines, every settlement is isolated, and that means, oh great, all of my screws are in Sanctuary, and I'm in Hangman's Alley. So with Local Leader, all your junk is shared, you can build, craft, and mod gear anywhere in your network, and that dramatically reduces travel time. And in turn, that reduces exposure, which reduces random ambushes, which reduces a chance you'll die carrying 200 pounds of aluminium. Then at rank 2, it unlocks shops, which means you can create your own vendors, sell gear without trekking to Diamond City, buy essentials closer to home, and generate passive income. I would say that in survival, settlements aren't really cosmetic, they're survival hubs, and Local Leader turns them into a functioning economy. It saves you a lot of time, resources, and ultimately a lot of frustration, let's be honest. My backup for charisma, and you may have guessed what this is already because I've been rambling on about carry weight. Backup is Lone Wanderer. And if you're not running a companion, then Lone Wanderer is ridiculously strong in survival because obviously you get increased carry weight, which I've covered already. It reduces damage taken when you're alone, whilst also increasing your damage output, which basically is 3 survival buffs in 1 perk. Sure, I get it, some of you like companions, they can be useful, but they also block doorways, trigger traps, break stealth, and occasionally watch you die without helping. Lone Wanderer is consistent, and if you want, you can get all of the benefits from it and bring dog meat with you, so you're technically not travelling alone. It's not necessarily as transformational as Local Leader long term, but in those little moments, it's incredibly useful. So for charisma and survival, Local Leader allows you to control the macro game, Lone Wanderer strengthens, I don't know, let's call it the micro game. One builds your network, and the other one makes you personally harder to kill, and ultimately, both are very important. Intelligence is next, and in normal mode, it can often be tied to you guys wanting to level faster. But in survival mode, that's not always the case because everything does cost something. Ammo has weight, healing costs more supplies, crafting costs components, mistakes cost time, and so on and so forth. So, with that being said, I'm picking the perk that saves the most resources over the longer period of time Chemist. And you may be now watching this thinking, mate, you're chatting absolute bollocks, but Chemist in survival, I feel has really good value. Why? Because chems in survival are not just combat boosts, like they double up as emergency buttons. Like you can get ones that increase carry weight, things that like Psycho that can end fights faster. Jet saves you from being rushed. Med-X reduces incoming damage, and with Chemist, they last significantly longer. On a full playthrough, that means you're likely to use far fewer chems, far fewer crafting materials, and significantly more uptime per dose. Don't forget antibiotics last longer too, which is a massive bonus because infections are common in survival, and having longer lasting treatment reduces how often you actually need to craft or buy more. Chemist turns chems from panic tools into advantages, so instead of quick, pop a jet or I'm dead, it becomes I now control this fight, at least to some degree. Stretching every crafted item further is exactly what you need in survival mode. But if you don't want to become a walking pharmaceutical thing, and you don't like relying on chems, that's fair enough, totally get it. So my backup here would be Gun Nuts. That could be a good stability pick because it gives you access to weapon mods. Weapon mods mean higher damage per bullet, better recoil control, improved accuracy, and more efficient ammo usage, which again loops back to the golden rule in survival mode: fewer bullets fired means less weight carried. Upgrading your primary weapon early allows you to end fights quicker, You'll probably use fewer stim packs and less ammo, hopefully take less damage, and unlike some perks, gun nut scales consistently throughout the entire game. Now, yes, high intelligence also means more XP overall, but in survival, leveling slightly faster isn't always as important. It's still obviously incredibly useful, but it's not as always important as fighting smarter. Gun nut lets you do that from level 1. So, for intelligence in survival, Chemist stretches your consumables, and Gun Nut improves your combat efficiency. One maxes your temporary power, and the other strengthens your baseline combat, and then the mode built around scarcity. Both are pretty hard to ignore. Next up is agility, and in normal mode, which it could be classed as about style, but in survival, it's usually about not dying stupidly, like I have done on many occasions. Rushing in is punished, bad positioning is punished, and getting caught reloading in the open, very punished. And I, for one, am guilty of all of the above, so for survival, I'm kind of looking for a bit more control. And the best perk for that is Sneak. Sneak is absurdly strong in survival not only because it makes you cool, obviously, but because it generally reduces the number of fights you actually have to take. Each rank makes you harder to detect, less likely to trigger traps, more stable in stealth movement, and that matters a lot. Why? Well, because fewer enemies alerted means significantly fewer bullets coming your way. Simples. Stealth in survival isn't just about bonus damage from sneak attacks, which, while it is very useful, it is also about a bit more information, so you see them before they see you, and then you can choose how you engage the enemies, if at all, and you get to control that positioning. I mean, you really get to decide if that fight happens in the first place, I guess. And in survival, avoiding one messy fight can save 5 stim packs, 2 antibiotics, 40 rounds of ammo, and a 30-minute reload. And don't forget that Sneak pairs beautifully with Rifleman from earlier. Controlled mid-range engagement from Stealth. Yep, that's the survival dream, folks, because it turns chaos into planning, and that's quite useful if you want to stay alive. Some of you are probably watching this and you're thinking, nah, stealth is boring. And if that's you, then fair enough. Then my backup here for you guys is Action Boy or Action Girl, because that is also incredibly valuable, as it gives you faster AP regeneration, and that means more VATS usage, more sprinting when things are going a bit tits up mid-fight, so faster repositioning mid-fight, and that's quite useful because standing still is how you die. And if fights are starting to go tits up, having AP to sprint behind cover and break line of sight or escape entirely is often the difference between surviving and thriving, aka reloading a save. It also helps with stronger backs higher ranks where movement can cost AP whilst over encumbered, so it quietly supports your entire build. It's not glamorous, but it does make your character feel smoother, more responsive, more capable, and that in survival reduces panic mistakes, like the ones I make a lot of. So for agility, Sneak reduces encounters, whereas Action Boy or Girl improves mobility within them. One avoids danger, and the other one actually allows you to escape it better if you need to, so both are infinitely better than sprinting into a super mutant camp like you're still in the Power Fantasy video. Right, the final one is luck, and in normal mode, luck is often about crit chains and chaos, whereas in survival mode, it's a little bit more about momentum, because leveling faster in this mode doesn't always just mean more damage, it means more health, more carry weight, faster access to key perks mentioned in this video, and earlier stability. So my winner here is probably Idiot Savant. An Idiot Savant is really good in survival because it gives you a chance to gain massively increased XP from any action. I'm talking about things like killing enemies, completing quests, discovering locations, crafting, and so on. In survival, you'll be doing a lot of those things. Now, yes, it does work better with lower intelligence, so you may end up going for my backup option here. But even at a moderate intelligent levels, it still triggers enough to matter. So why is it so strong? Well, because in survival, levels are safety, and each level gives you, like I said, more HP, more perk access, more build flexibility, and getting those key perks earlier, like Strong Back, Local Leader, Rifleman, Sneak, that smooths out the hardest part of surviving the early game. Like, the faster you scale, the faster it becomes more manageable, and Idiot Savant accelerates that curve. And occasionally, when it kicks in on a big quest turn and you feel like you've just robbed the XP bank. It can be unpredictable, sure, but over time, can snowball hard, and snowballing survival feels great. Or if you prefer consistency over the chance of a little extra XP, then I'd say that Scrounger is your practical pick here. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and again, and again. Ammo has weight, ammo costs caps, and running dry mid location is not fun in survival. And the best remedy for that is Scrounger because it increases the amount of ammo you find in containers. And especially with those ones behind a lockpick, which is why the lockpick perk is also useful. Like, I actually get Scrounger in normal mode as well because it just makes my life easier. I do fewer vendor trips. In fact, I don't think I buy ammo at all because of the Scrounger perk, and it gives me more flexibility with my weapon choices. It basically supports your entire gameplay loop quietly in the background, so you won't really feel it dramatically, but over 20 or 30 hours, you absolutely will. So to round all of that up, you may notice something, and that is none of these perks are about being flashy. None of them are about insane damage numbers. This isn't the delete everything in 0.3 seconds build, and instead I've gone down the line of, carrying more, wasting less, avoiding fights where necessary, ending dangerous moments quickly, and ultimately leveling faster. Strength keeps you moving, perception keeps your fights efficient, endurance stretches your survivability, charisma builds your infrastructure, intelligence maximizes your resources, agility keeps you from getting caught, and luck accelerates your progress. Individually, you may think these perks aren't that amazing, but together they turn survival mode from stressful into a lot more manageable. And that's really the difference between this video and the last one I made about the most overpowered perks. The power build breaks combat and it's good fun and there's lots of chaos. But this build breaks the struggle in survival mode and the stress we all feel when things are going tits up, basically. In survival mode, the real enemies aren't just raiders or death claws. It's also walking too far whilst carrying too much, using too many supplies, and making one mistake you can't undo. These perks don't make you reckless, they make you more prepared. And in survival, prepared players live longer and probably enjoy it more as well, let's be honest. And there you have it, folks. There are 7 special perks for 7 stats that don't just make you stronger, they make survival mode a lot more manageable. The real difficulty in survival isn't always the enemies, as I've said. It can half the time be the logistics, like the long walks, like the why am I over encumbered yet again? And the moment you realize the nearest bed is 3 loading screens away. These perks don't necessarily break Fallout 4, but they do help smooth it out, reduce chaos, and overall save you guys time. Now, I'm curious what you guys think. Which perk do you always take in survival, and which one do you think I underrated? Because I guarantee someone is about to defend Aquaboy with their entire soul, and disagree on some of my others. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, and if you're still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can become a channel member as well, and as always, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in my next one.